died, thousands of properties and other valuables destroyed, and thousands others displaced because it rained hard, and the capital and other cities got flooded that badly. That has been the story of Ghana, especially in the capital city, Accra. Now, after the June 3 twin disaster that claimed at least 150 lives, many thought that the adrenaline that accompanied many state and private-led initiatives would continue and the issue would be buried once and for all. After all, it has cost Ghana over $6 billion already across all sectors of the economy, residential to public properties, among others. But it seems it was but just a 9-day wonder. And so, despite the supposed numerous investments and the ad hoc campaign for Ghanaians to stop dumping refuse in unauthorized places, many still die today due to floods. Just last week, 3 people died, including a toddler, following floods from torrential rains in Accra. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Adu, and tonight we want to revisit the challenge of flooding, especially in the capital city of Accra, and what has to be done about it, i.e. poorly planned cities, buildings on waterways, and just the ways that continue to choke our drains. I do have on the panel with us Mr. Alfred Oko Vanderpoy. He's former mayor of Accra, also MP Ablekuma South in the Greater Accra region. Sir, it's great to have you in the studio, sir. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
I also do have with us Engineer Abdullahi Mahama. He's infrastructure engineer, Comtran Engineering and Planning Associate. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you as well for joining us on Agenda tonight. We do have in studio as well with us Mr. Kranchi Adamatete, Risk and Behavior Change Communications and Local Governance Experts. Yeah. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you as well for joining us on Agenda.
You're welcome.
And of course, last but not the least, we have by video call with us Mr. Richard Ameko. He is head of Drainage Ghana Hydrological Authority. He joins us via video call. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you as well for joining us on Agenda tonight.
Good evening, my sister, and then good evening to various viewers, and then the honorables, and then the other colleagues on your panel.
It's great to have you. Remember that we're streaming live on 3FM 92.7. Send us your comments and we will read them back to you. I want to start immediately with you, Honorable Alfred Oko Vanderpoy. I remember calling you before 6 a.m. on the 4th of June after that twin disaster. You were then the mayor of Accra, exactly in 2015. What have we not learnt?
What have we not learnt? Well, let me thank my friends for having seen for so long. Yeah. But I'm happy to be with them, to share this moment with them. And I know the people of Ablekuma South are watching, so let me greet them, if you don't mind. You know, since that disaster, every time I think of it, I say to myself, 3 things we have to do and we haven't done. And that is, do what we need to do, enforce what we need to enforce, and find the money to maintain what we need to do. These are the 3 things that I think is eluding us. As a country, or if you look into Accra, the capital city, look at the infrastructure that has been in place before I was born. Those same infrastructure exist today. Go to our communities. Despite the fact that we have constructed some new infrastructure, but the old infrastructure still exists. And anytime over the years, the drains are getting smaller. Go to our communities and you will see what I'm telling you. They are getting smaller every day. Go to the CBD, Accra. Go to Mokola. In fact, in some cases, they have even covered out. They don't exist. They are there, but covered. Number two, nature set us up as a coastal area, had put in place a way so when it rains, our drainage will get into the ocean. We have the Kweshi, we have the Koli, we have the Chemwena. These are the three major drainage paths into the ocean. Today, go and see if they exist. The Kweshi is completely gone. Okay? The Koli Lagoon, which is an embodiment of the Odo coming in. Today, go and see. It's an island.
So the point you're making is that things have gotten worse.
Every day is getting worse.
Fortunately, you were made the mayor of Accra by the late Professor Mills, President Mills, in 2009.
Yes.
You were retained by current President John Mahama. Would you say that during those 2 terms, should I put it, you did what you were supposed to do? Because I remember after the flood, you had an interview with the BBC where you said that you owed no apologies because, per your estimation, you had done what you were supposed to do. You confidently believe that you did what you were supposed to do during your period.
Yes, because when I came into office, I looked at what 3 mayors after me have done. They had put plans, they have put programs, suggestions that have been made by consultants. They put it all together. So when it rained, I went to Professor Mills, joined me at Circle and asked me, Oko, what do we need to do about this? And I said, I have a plan. So I took the plan to him and I said, we need to reconstruct our drains. I said, we need to reconstruct our storm drains, local drains.
And if you could be wrapping up for me so I can get the preliminary thoughts of the other panel members as well.
So what am I supposed to do? I'm a leader of the city. I have to provide a plan of action.
And you did?
And I did. We took it all the way to Parliament. It was passed.
And
but as a nation, we walked away from it because we didn't have the money.
And very briefly, before I go to the rest of the panel, I remember that during those times, one of the main emphasis you kept, or one of the main things you kept saying was that we needed to ensure that the Odo was free because the pollution of the Odo was contributing to how much floods we saw in the capital city.
Yes.
And yet there was a major failure on the part of the government to relocate the residents around that place that could ensure that we stopped the pollution. Just very briefly before I go to the other panel.
So I gave you 3 elements. I said, if we don't have the will to do what we need to do, political intervention, so makeshifts would never get us where we need to do.
Let me come to you, Engineer Mahama. Accra is obviously not new to flooding, and I just talked about the fact that just last week we had 3 people dying, unfortunately including a child. Aside from indiscriminate dumping of refuse, which we've even seen in the committee's report, the committee that investigated the TV3, also the city collecting just about 30% of its waste that is produced and building on waterways, poor planning, among others. Why have we failed to deal with the problems or give answers to the problems that we already know exist?
Well, I'll say
in addition to what the former mayor has said.
My other colleagues, Honorable Oku, and then my other partner, and the one on the Zoom. I should be saying that I'm just becoming overwhelmed with these discussions over and over again. Honorable stated one thing that, in fact, when they were young, they used to have 3 basins. Unfortunately for Honorable, it is not stopping. And I'm sure that as we dig deep, we will just be discussing one of the activities that is happening right now at Abokubi Enclave. Now you see, the Odo, as you see in Accra, has about 12 basins. If these basins are functioning, there will not be any problem at the Odo. Unfortunately for all of us, as we speak, one of the biggest basins in Ghana, let me say Accra, which is just underneath Abokubi, is being filled as we speak. And when that is filled, it means that hitherto would have collected about 1 million or 10 million liters of water. But because we have filled the basin to the brim, all those waters will be running like a flash flood. And so many years ago, when it rains up the mountain, where we need water to travel within 12 hours to get to Accra, now we are having water traveling to Accra in 1 hour. So, Honorable and the other bigwigs who matter when it comes to decision making will show an example, and I'm sure TV3 is one of the biggest stations we have in the country. And we'll leave a record today, we'll leave some information for them today, that I wish that once Honorable is aware, and then the Minister of Greater Accra is actively doing something today. The Ramsey site is one of the biggest receptor of all the water bodies which are supposed to inundate Accra. Yes. Now, there's one challenging thing. The sea is rising by the day. Every year, about a 2 millimeters level of the sea is rising. Global warming. So what it means is that if the water from the Odo, even if the Odo is dredged, it's supposed to empty the volume of water into the sea. Because the sea is rising, the retention period becomes much longer. Yeah. And so if we do not tackle all the receptors that we have along the Odo, especially Abokubi Enclave, you see, when that one is filled, which is happening now, that Abokubi area is about 1 kilometer away from the assembly and 1 kilometer away from the police station. Now, the river that, when I was actually undertaking a construction for Accra Lions Abokubi Sports Complex in 2019, I used to have difficulty even traversing that small area because of the water. Now, you even go past that place without even noticing that you're going past the basin. So, when it rains now and that basin is already filled, it doesn't have the capacity to take the water goes through that area to Ashoma and then through to Hacho, around Top Herba. Those are some of the garden projects that government has been trying to construct. And you're actually showing the pictures of what you're talking about today, basins. So that we will look at it, the picture you see on the screen. And we cannot be talking in Accra here, Greater Accra proper, when the various receptors which are supposed to accommodate all the water bodies. And if you could be wrapping up for me so I can go to Mr. So I will not be surprised that Domi Pillar 2 area, Aveno, Caprice, what do you call it? Alajo. Would be receiving flood waters when it has not even rained in Accra. I said this in 2017, that we'll be in Accra one day. There will not be rains in Accra, but Accra will flood. I'm coming to you, Mr. Adamatete, because we are hearing Mr. Abdullahi here talk about the basins that are filled and the fact that you're going to have the rippling effects of it. I'm asking you the same questions. Beyond what he has said and what Honorable just said, why have we failed to get answers to the problems you already know? He's enumerated problems. Mr. Van der Poel also enumerated problems. They say that you get to find answers to problems when you know what the problems are. In this case, we know the problems. Why aren't we finding the answers?
Yeah, so a critical component of the problem cycle is the human being, okay? And when we talk about the human being in this sense, we are not only talking about residents, but we are talking about policy implementers, we are talking about law enforcers, we are talking about every human being who falls within this scope. And so unless we are able to get the reorientation that is required as a people, to know that the little action that I do or the little inaction that I do as an individual living within the society will go to have these there are consequences on us.
How long will it take? Because, I mean, we had seen people dying, and the statistics are there prior to 2015. And yet, 2015, everybody was like, okay, now we realize what's going on. And we still have this problem.
But when we say we realize what's going on, what did we do as a people? You know, from the policy level, then to the law enforcement, what did we do? Did we put any particular system in place to be able to ensure that people do what they have to do? We have, you know, and when it comes to behavior change campaigns, we do them ad hoc, okay? So a problem arises, we say flooding, we get up, we do campaigns for a short period and we stop. But that shouldn't be the approach. It must be integrated into the whole cycle. More often than not, you talk to behavior change communication specialists within institutions, and they say they are always shortchanged because we see that aspect as very little or not very important. But the people who need to change their behavior will resort greatly in finding the solutions, because if you have the laws, for example, the building codes, these documents are there, you read through and they are fine documents. But you ask yourself, how many people even know about that document? And how many people even understand that document?
Do I hear you say that it's a failure of leadership?
Of course. They say in our language, they say if something will spoil, it starts from the head. Okay, so we cannot take that aspect out. But if we drive the people in the right direction, then of course the people can follow in that direction. So it's a whole cycle that we all must look at and deal with it from
I'll come back to you, Mr. Adamate. I want to get the first thoughts of Engineer Ameko, who is the head of drainage at the Ghana Hydrological Authority. I know that you worked closely with the committee, the 7-member committee set up by the president to look at, flooding, anti-flooding committee set up headed by Deputy Chief of Staff, and other areas that you've been involved in as well. What have you got to add to what has been said so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers as well, and good evening to everybody. Honorable, and then my colleagues on the studio. Yes, having heard all, they've all said, exactly what is happening on the ground. Yes, I think it all boils down to a lack of enforcing the law. You know, we have fine laws in this country, but then the bottom line is, are we enforcing them? The local act is there, but what are we doing to them? Okay, if you take the local act, it says that if you want to build, you need to have, if you want to build, you need to have a percentage area for greenery. Are the local authorities ensuring to that? That's the question we need to ask. Now, number two, I was so happy that this government has put in this place, put in this task force to look at this flooding issue. I was so happy. Honestly speaking, there were some areas I bet you dare not go there because of this, our land guard issues. It is because people are misbehaving, let me put it that way, which we need to, it's about time we need to strike the whip. Because if you look at all the reservoirs we have in our basins, they are all virtually gone. People are filling the wetlands, all that we have. Where when it rains heavily, water should be able to sit for some time, accommodate it for some time before releasing or discharging gradually into the streams. We are losing them day in and day out. And then the local authorities are there. So it's about time we need to enforce the law. We need to strike the whip. Okay, until we do this, we still have these challenges. Now, we're trying to use this opportunity to encourage people or to educate people that it's about time we need to go back and then try to ensure that people begin to put in this rain harvesting. Okay, if you think that you have paved all your homes, or you paved everywhere, we have a work called retrofitting. You can still decide to look at it with the local authorities so that we can have some green areas to accommodate flow. Because what is happening now, if we don't get up, or if we don't set up, or the authorities, go on the ground to ensure that people adhere to the regulations that we have or the laws that we have, we'll still be having these challenges. I mean, Honorable said it all. All the 9 basins that we have in Accra, all the lagoons, gradually they are diminishing. And everybody, the local authority is sitting down and everybody's looking at it. Okay, so I was so happy that President has formed this task force to look at all these areas that could help us. The areas that we could not go with the task force, we were able to go to those places. And I don't know whether you can recall that about a month or so, we went to Manlam area where somebody is trying to fill the Ballet reservoir, which is so sad. You know, President has to take. I mean, President went there. Everybody saw it. What they are doing there? They are reducing the capacity of the basin, and which could accommodate a lot of flow from upstream. So it's something that it's about time we need to set up and begin to strike the whip. So this is the little I can add to what we are discussing. And
talking about striking the whip, we'll be going into the Criminal Offences Act that really spells out what must be done when somebody pollutes the environment. But do stay with us. We'll go into that and bring you some recommendations as well. This is still Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice Adu. Don't go away.
Every day is packed with its own surprises. You never know which thrill is around the corner. Feel good. Feel good. Or how it will play out. There's a sense of excitement.
Did our plane just stop?
Another cash out.
That adds a little magic to my everyday.
Woo! Feels like a party tonight.
Every morning, I wake up to this miracle sleeping soundly. But mornings weren't always this peaceful. I remember the sleepless nights, leaks that woke us both up, damp clothes and tears. And all I wanted was for my baby to be dry and comfortable. Then I discovered Flora Kids baby diaper. Its maximum absorption keeps my little one dry all night, giving us peaceful, restful sleep. And the stretchy side tapes, they make sure it's comfy even when she's on the move. Thanks to Flora Kids baby diaper, our nights are calm and our mornings are full of giggles. For bulk purchases, call Delta Paper Mail on 0243 033 033.
And also here on Agenda on TV3, my name is Beatrice Adu. Tonight we are looking at the flooding situation in Accra and what to do about it after many years of trying to deal with the problem, yet still seeing people dying, with a recent incident costing the lives of 3, including a child. And before we went on that break, I was having Actually, it was Mr. Richard Ameko, who was on the floor talking about the need for us to act now. And I'm coming back to you, Mr. Ameko, and I promised that I was going to get into the Criminal Offences Act, because when you look at it, that's the Act 29, Section 296, 18 says that whoever does any of the following acts shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 200,000 cedis in any town, places, or causes or permits to be placed any carrion, filth, dirt, refuse or rubbish, etc. So obviously, if anyone was punished for indiscriminate disposal of waste, we will not be here.
I think, yes, I mean, that is it. I think it's about time we need to put the human face aside. Okay, it is costing us a lot. It's really costing us. You know what happened last Sunday? You'll be surprised to see that. I mean, people have built right under the dam, which is. I was so surprised to see a lot of structures coming up there. So let's assume that the dam breaches. I'm telling you, thousands of people will die. Why must the local authorities allow people to build there? That is, you can't even understand. And then I ask myself that you, the human being, been developing there. Why must you even go and build there for the first place? It's a huge thing that we are, it's about time we need to sit up. Because, we can't continue to be going through this, every year. Okay? If you go to, places like, how do you call it? This Wager area, the same problem. If you go to the estuary, Kokrobite area, people are building at the estuary. Seriously. And it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. So when there's a spillage from the Wager Dam, just imagine the number of people who are going to be in this flooding issue. They will all be submerged. And the local authorities are there. What are we doing to ourselves? Okay. If you go to the Adenta area, Adenta used to have nice micro detention ponds. Very beautiful ones. They are no more. Okay? Now, as an engineer, if you want to re-engineer all these drainage structures, you are compelled to introduce withholding tanks. And this all comes by space, availability of space. Okay? And people are built in all these areas. Meanwhile, God in his own wisdom has given us these natural areas that we can accommodate flow. And we sit down for us to be losing them. So if you look at the Gary project that we're currently doing now, getting places to site detention ponds, it's a big challenge now. Okay, you have to go and acquire those areas. And where is the resources? You get me? Meanwhile, God has given us natural areas that will allow all this. When the system overwhelms or the drainage structures, okay, it rains heavily and it beyonds everybody's imagination. That's how God has made it in the course of every river.
I want to come to you, Mr. Mahama, because Engineer Meko talked about acting and ensuring that people pay for what they do. At the stage, I heard you talking about the Odo basins that are all full. Yeah. You talked about the Abokobi one that is also full, and now you're going to have flash waters. At this stage, which individual are you going to hold responsible for what has happened so far? How do we move from here?
Well, the map for the retention ponds in Accra is supposed to be known by my good colleague, Richard. They should have the map at their office. In fact, they used to be the irrigation, the irrigation service assembly, and then they became an authority about 2022 or something like that. The former director by name Engineer Waisametepe has that chart. And I'm sure he coming from that institution, he wouldn't have taken all the chart home. If you call Waisametepe today, he give you all the chart. So I would wish
Mr. Ameko should be able to tell us who should be punished
they should
at
be
this
able
moment.
to have that map to be able to identify all the 12 or 18 retention areas that we have in Accra. If we have sold those lands, I believe that government have to quantify the cost of disaster that happens every year when the rains come, as against going to assess those structures sitting on those natural habitats.
So the people who are having their structures on those areas should be punished. And you're also saying that those who sold the land should also be held accountable.
So there are number three folds. The assembly, first and foremost, do what we call zoning status. So if those areas were zoned for non-residential facilities, and we have them, you'll be surprised to know that some warehouses are still in Ghana here, in most of the identified or question mark areas, and they don't have anything. So we need to do an investigation as to those facilities who don't have the permit. The Land Use Special Plan Act of 2016 at 925 has to be used to the latter, because it gives one of the paragraphs. It says that in the event where an officer of the, like say a developer, develops a land without notice to the recourse to the law, the assembly may, without notification, carry out instant prohibition, abatement, alteration, or demolition of that structure when the structure interferes with the environment or the public space.
And I'm coming to you, Mr. Okovando.
So
because,
the Honorable is here. They are the powers that speak.
Yes, you have had the opportunity to occupy such a position where you had the MMDCs under you. What do you make of what he's saying?
Okay. You know, we have assemblies that cover every piece of land in this country. We have assemblies. What the reform that I think needs to take place with our assemblies, if you want to enforce something in this country, the agent of enforcement is the police.
But there should be collaboration with the assemblies.
Yes, they have to work with the police. But we have city guards in the assembly. We don't have police. We only call in the police when we think we need them. You see? And do you know how much it costs for assemblies to call police? To take on police to go and enforce. And then when the police enforce, they are gone. So in practice, we need to change that. Okay? AMA, TMA, and all, they should have police units, not city guards.
So the point you're making is?
The point I'm making is that the time has come for us seriously to enjoin the police with the assemblies, not only when they are needed.
Was that done when you were mayor?
No.
Why?
We will call in the police when we think we need them. Okay? In this country, look, if we want to really enforce our laws, we need to get the police actively involved for enforcement.
Yeah, so what I'm asking is...
Let's look at...
To what extent did you implement what you are suggesting now when you are in power?
When I was in power...
As the mayor of Accra.
When I was in power, seriously, we were talking about doing what is done in New York. For example, New York has a police unit with the city. Okay, so if you're looking at best practices and you want enforcement, then bring in the police with the assembly, not when they are needed. It's the police that enforces. Yes, the assemblies have what you call city guards. And who is afraid of a city guard today? You understand? So we need to change the whole thing of enforcement, the idea.
I don't seem to have gotten the answer as regards to what extent you implemented this and what kind of result it yielded.
So I'm telling you the challenges that most chief executives have. Today, look, they are doing decongestion in Accra. You see the city guards. Those traders have no fear of the city guards. They will move when the city guard is coming. When the city guards get to this point, they'll go back. That is the practice. And I'm saying that if we want to do effective enforcement in this country, the time has come for us to let the police be part of the district assemblies.
So I will be coming to you very shortly, but I want to read what you said in Parliament in February, when you said that very soon we will have our district chief executives, and when that is done, they will be informed and instructed to ensure that we reset in all operations and the sanitation issue will be taken care of. We will deal with the congestion and illegal activities of traders, and all other matters of concern will be addressed. That is what we campaigned on, and the people voted massively for us. So we will make Ghana work again. Aside from the recent decongestion exercise that we've seen happening at the Central Business District, to what extent would you say that this has been implemented since the president was inaugurated into office on the 7th of January?
So today, if you went to Kumasi, Accra, you can see that the attempt is there to decongest. They are working at it. From my experience, I am saying that for them to be successful, for their actions to be sustainable, to the effect that there is serious enforcement in what we believe and what we want, the time has come for us to get the police involved, not on an ad hoc basis. Because what we do usually is on ad hoc basis.
Ms. Adu, I'm coming to you on what you make of what Mr. Van der Poel is saying, and really what we need to do, because this is costing us a lot of money.
Exactly.
Already, I believe as of 2023 or so, the costs as estimated was over $6 billion in terms of losses of public and private property. And so let me just read that to you, really. In terms of
let me just say something to you. When you send in the police to go and enforce the laws you just read, the police will tell you, I cannot enforce it because I am not the city guard.
So that's the challenge.
Yes,
that's the challenge you faced, because now you're beginning to answer the question I asked earlier.
They will say that this is AMA city guards' work, not the police.
But you could have done something more about it.
So they will be there to
beyond
protect
that.
the city guard, but not the enforcement.
But what did you do about the challenge?
That's what I'm telling you, that we were working on the policy to the extent that we will get Parliament to, give us a law that will help us to have police, not city guards.
I want to give you the breakdown of the cost as we have now.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And in terms of small and medium enterprises, the estimated cost of flooding in the capital city is 1.8 billion Ghana cedis. Public infrastructure, 2.1 billion Ghana cedis. In terms of residential property damage, that's about 800 million cedis. Yeah. ECG disruption and grid failure. And I'm sure that anytime it rains a little bit, you have light out in your area. The following day, you have Gridco or ECG telling you that we are fixing our transformers, etc. That's how much it costs. 20 million Ghana cedis. Public health, and that also connected to diseases like cholera, because your systems are so filled with debts that, it leads to cholera. That's 360 million Ghana cedis. And in terms of emergency relief, NADMO coming in, even with the recent one, that has cost us about 720 million cedis. So the total, as I said, is a little or over $6 billion, as I said earlier. So that's why I came to you, sir, about really what we need to do moving forward, because it keeps costing us.
Yeah.
And there's actually a research that proves that by 2030, if we don't fix this, it's going to even get worse.
Nice. Yeah. So we have to be very definite about what we're going to do. And this goes into the aspects of the law enforcement that we've been talking about. So at the assembly level, and I rightly agree with Honorable Okovanda to an extent, because the capacities of the assembly in terms of enforcement also require so much expansion. Why do I say this? Because just this morning, when the regional minister was at the Ramsey site in Sakumono, they said they had to be there for up to about 5 hours, waiting for a bulldozer to come on site for them to start working. So the Tema Metropolitan Assembly goes to sites to do demolition exercise, and they don't even have a bulldozer. That is why I'm particularly hopeful that the president's intention to give more resources to the assembly as part of the decentralization system may go to help. Because if the assembly is incapacitated, then they cannot do a lot of the things that they are supposed to do and do it rightly. So the assemblies themselves, because even when it comes to littering, we've been part of projects where you go out to enforce laws on littering, and then you arrest somebody who has even littered. And then even that process of taking the person to court becomes a major challenge that you have no option than to let the person go. So the assemblies themselves must be able to have the capacity to be able to do what they are supposed to do.
But is that not the excuse we've always been giving? We are always saying assemblies are not equipped, all of that. But there are certain things that may not necessarily demand money. They just have to act, and they won't. Like the Criminal Offences Act I talked about. If you see somebody dumping refuse or littering around, you don't need resources to get the person in the right.
No, but you see, these are some aspects of the enforcement. But I'm saying that there are certain aspects of the enforcement that the capacity of the assembly has been built. You will be surprised, my sister. You go into some assemblies within certain periods, and even resources to buy basic things are not available. That is why I'm saying that. I'm hopeful that the president's intention to release funds from the center to the assemblies may work. And of course, it doesn't mean that when the monies go, it's going to work automatically.
I'm not sure Mr. Mahama agrees with you because he's giggling whilst you're talking, but I'll come back to you after the break. I just want to read some of your comments back to you. Erica Tipo says, yet still we have professors with PhD in Ghana running their mouth. Come here, America, and see how many youth are employed in sanitation companies with massive employment opportunities just from sanitation companies alone. And then he adds that when I was young, my parents used to run every week in a month shouting, town council is coming. And everyone starts cleaning ASAP because you will be summoned to pay fine. I remember that. Today, it's all being trashed. Then he says, long live JJ Rawlings. And then he says, Kwame Ahun says the problem with people doing sanitation jobs in Ghana is much about the payment of good salaries to make it attractive. So you can't compare these two countries. And then there is also our leaders travel every time and yet they act like they don't know what's going on in developing countries. And I'll just read the last one to you. And then I'll come back to read more of your comments. He said, our social behavior is a cause of disaster, especially flooding. Behavioral change for good is the solution. Law enforcement is part of social behavior. As many rest in peace, the nation through their salaries they receive without doing the work they should do. Okay, coming from wisdom, I hope I got the points you tried to make. When we come back, we'll tell you more about really what needs to be done moving forward. Don't go away. And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice Adu. We're talking about the flooding situation in the capital city and what needs to be done, hopefully once and for all, to deal with this problem. I do have on the panel with me Alfred Okovandepoy, his former mayor of Accra and also MP for Ablekuma South in the Greater Accra region. We do have as well Engineer Abdullahi Mahama. We also do have Kranche Adama Tete, risk and behavior change communications expert as well by video call with us. Mr. Richard Ameko, head of Drainage, Ghana Hydrological Authority. And so we were really talking about what needs to be done moving forward. I just want to get the quick thought of Mr. Richard Ameko before I come back to the panel in studio here. So far, with what has been said, moving forward, what needs to be done?
Thank you very much, my sister. I think we need to enforce the laws and then make sure people adhere to the rules and regulations governing development. And then 3, we need to control, that is the baseline. Once we're able to control development, my sister, will be fine as a nation. We just have to control development. We should allow the authorities to work. We should allow them to work. Let them do their work. And forget about this human face. It is really, really worrying us as a nation. Yes, we need to, if somebody has erred, we need to allow the person to go through. He should be punished for it to serve as a deterrent to others. The same I was saying the last time. People are built close to, wetlands. They build on wetlands. They are built close to the drains. Those structures should be brought down. To serve as a deterrent to others. And we should allow people to build close to our storm drains. And then number 3. Number 4, we also need to make sure we're trying to have this sustainable drainage system where we say even if you have already built, you've hardened everywhere, you've paved all your lands, your area, you should be able to remove some portion of it and have some greenery. This now the world is trying, gradually entering into this nature-based solutions. Trying to have some greens at home, have some, plant some greens at least to take care of surface runoff. If it rains, you should be able to accommodate and infiltrate into the soil. And then we are trying to also speak to people to have this rain harvesting. If your house, you're able to harvest at least some portion of the rain, and then I also do same at least before the surface runoff, which is the overland flows, goes out. I think we'll be fine as a nation. The other one also is that as a nation, we need to take up, our culture of maintenance. It's very, very, very important. It seems like something that we have all relent on. I think it's about time we need to set up with our maintenance culture. If you're driving on our highways, you find a lot of sand gathering at the edges of the roads, and this sand ends up entering into our drains. And what happens is that it blocks the drains. And if it rains, the water settles on the road. And you know that all our highways that we have, majority of the places, there are these depressions. And water would like to find its own way, the lowest point to settle. So it's about time we need to go back, begin to work on our roadside drains, distort them, and make sure we clean all those ones to accommodate flow. Thank you very much, my sister.
I'm coming to you, Mr. Mahama. I know you were reacting to Mr. Ameko and Mr. Tete there when they were talking about, the fact that this is costing us a lot, but you seem to have had a different view.
Yes, when he was talking, I was surprised that he said the minister had to wait for 5 good hours before excavators were brought in. What happened to the drip? Last year, we paraded over tens of thousands of machines at the Independence Square. In fact, in Salon, for instance, I've seen them there. They are parked at the assembly. So what are we waiting for? So I was surprised that the minister will get to the Ramsia site and it will take 5 hours. Because it's already planned. We knew about it on the weekend, that she will be doing something like that today. So mobilization should have been done long ago before she gets there. But she started very well. What I saw at Wager and what I saw the part 1 at Ramsia site. The Ramsia site is about 1,304 hectares of land. And if the Ramsia site is kept, I'm quite sure that it can accommodate about 1/10 of the greater Accra proper water. So that means that if we're supposed to have surface water about maybe 1 meter, that Ramsia site alone, including the Wager, can take up to about 500 mm. It means that at the point, we will be having only about 0.5 of water inundating the site. At least cars will not be submerging. At least it will be at the thighs of the cars.
We've heard the president talk about the fact that the country is considering a second capital city or an administrative city. To what extent do you think this will help deal with the problem?
We've heard this for the past 20 years.
You don't believe it?
No, they said it will go to Dodoa. Dodoa is now choked.
We heard Pram Pram too earlier.
Pram Pram is getting choked. Pram Pram fairly is a very flat land. Unfortunately, if we take the habit of Accra to Pram Pram, we are doomed. Because Pram Pram is fairly flat. We don't have the topography where you have some high hills and then low areas. If we go with the same attitude of not distracting our drains, not designing properly, where I heard that, in fact, some of the areas, the land guards are the ones who are determining who to come and put up a structure or to do a drainage.
So the point you're making is having a second capital city is not the answer to our problem?
We might do a lot of demolition to be able to properly plan Accra. The second capital.
Mr. Okubandopoe, what's your thoughts? This is an idea suggested by the president of a government you are a part of.
Yes. The idea of having another city has been there for a long time and is being on the drawing board, which I think when the idea was put out was a good idea. But what would we do to that city that we haven't done to this one? If we don't change the way we do things, if we don't enforce our laws, if we don't maintain what we have, getting a new one will be the same. So yes, it's a good idea to say, like, we want to have another city. But let us learn to do the right thing now.
Is there anything you can do as a former mayor and also a member of parliament, currently in parliament, to ensure that you help with what we must do? Because the we is like the leadership. You may not be in, quote unquote, a leadership position that points to a particular responsibility, but being in parliament and a former mayor alone, you've got some clout.
You know, I'm speaking from practical experience. Look, he's talking about Ramsey site. I demolished 3-story buildings in Ramsey site. But today, go and see. They've built all over the place.
Because we are not consistent. I heard Mr. Tete talk about ad hoc.
Yes.
So it's a leadership thing. You just start, we make noise about it, we all go back to sleep.
No, let's correct that. But I was mayor for 8 years. And for my 8 years, I did not allow one person to build there. But what happened when I left after the 8 years? Okay? For 8 years, I never allowed anybody to construct in the Ramsey site.
How come you were not able to move the people from what we'd popularly call Sodom and Gomorrah, which was contributing to the Odo, for instance?
Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yes.
I moved the people. I moved them.
Completely?
I moved them. Yes. Go and check the record.
But we still had a problem.
I said, what happened after Okud left?
I want to get a
Those
quick
are the
thought.
things, we don't want to talk about. Continuity is very important. What happened after Okud left? Look at each area that we have challenges today. And let's see what Okud did over there. But what happened after Okud left?
I want to get a quick thought from Mr. Ameko. I mentioned earlier that you work closely with this 7-member committee, as well as the other bits that are supposed to ensure that we deal with the problem at hand. In like 30 seconds, can you tell us what has been achieved so far and what we need to do in like 30 seconds?
Consistency.
Consistency.
And we put politics in.
Yes, sorry. So far we have identified some hot spots that we've seen that people are, doing illegal activities, which the team or our leader has taken it up with the regional minister to take action. And as time goes on, it's a huge task. So we are moving from one end to the other. And then recently you could hear that the regional minister is taking some action at some places. Those are some of the, positive response you are getting. And very soon you will hear that other places also will be affected. They'll also get the response as well.
Let me get your final thoughts, Mr. Adama Tete. In 30 seconds.
Law enforcement goes hand in hand with knowledge, information. So from the behavior change and communication perspective, I think that we must be consistent with the dissemination of information. People need to understand, because the technocrats are there, they understand the problem,
in 30
they can
seconds,
envisage the problem, but the people who are supposed to support and do the things do not even understand. They don't understand that when I litter today, it's going to result in flooding tomorrow. When I pave my house today, they don't understand. So the engagement must be persistent.
Engagement must be persistent. Mr. Mahama, what drastic steps do we need to take to get the people to understand?
The Greater Accra Regional Minister has started. Let's give the president a non-political backing. I'm sure that we'll get somewhere. And then, like my minister, my mayor is here, I want them to go to Abokubi and deal with that issue as part of the challenges. If the minister is listening, she's on a task to actually make sure that she desilts or she removes all structures
in
the
30
waterways.
seconds.
That is one of the major ones that will affect a portion of Greater Accra. About 30% of the Greater Accra proper is because of what is happening around the Abokobi big basin. So, Mr. Minister, if you are listening or if you are watching, that's a request from Engineer Mahama to you. And then we all support the president in what he is doing to help the country.
And I'm coming to you, Mr. Van der Poy, because one of the things that came up was that if we go to the new city with the old attitude. We'll have the same problem. If you had a word of advice, for the president, what would you say at this time? In like 30 seconds.
Well, I'm happy that the president has put the task force in place. I think the task force might be genuine in their quest, and they must be very practical and enforcement. I think if we put our foot down and know what we know and do what we have to do, we will make changes for the better.
Thank you so much. And you just watched right there Alfred Oko Van der Poy. He is former mayor of Accra, also the current member of parliament for Ablekuma South in the Greater Accra region. Thank you, Mr. Van der Poy, for joining us on Agenda. You've also had as well Engineer Abdullahi Mahama, Infrastructure Engineer, Comtrain Engineering and Planning Associates. Thank you as well for joining us on Agenda. Of course, we've had as well in studio with us Mr. Kranchi Adama Tete, Risk and Behavior Change, Communications and Local Governance Expert. Thank you for joining us. Of course, last but not the least, who's been with us by video call as well, we've had Mr. Richard Ameko, Head of Drainage at the Ghana Hydrological Authority. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you for joining us on Agenda tonight. Join us again next week. Have a good evening.